What's up? All right, so we got some flash floods popping off. New York, um, and the floodwaters are moving. The storm is actually moving. And I know some of you have talked to me online talking about you had severe thunderstorms and torrential downpour in your area. I think Florida was one of them. And about 2 weeks ago, here in Ohio, we had excessive rain that I slept through pretty much. But when I woke up, went outside, somebody said, "Yo, that's your car. I don't think it's going to start. Was that your truck?" And I said, "Why?" They said, "Because the rain was up to your engine. So your engine is probably flooded." I'm like, "Nah, this is a Tahoe. It ain't gonna flood that easy." And sure enough, it started. But the next day, the we saw the city workers come out to our block. Um, the fire engine people came out and they were draining one of the weather the storm, Brody, and they were draining one of the like right where my house is. And I said, "Listen, my neighbor came out and said, my truck was almost flooded." And they said, "You need to go down to the city and talk to them about it," so on and so forth. And he was messing with the fire hydrant or whatever. And then after that, the sewer people came out and they had to drain the sewer. And I took some video of that. And also, my other neighbor was having a problem because in the apartment complex we live in, their pipes had were leaking or cracked or whatever, and the city was arguing with the apartment complex trying to figure out whose problem it was. The city eventually came out and tore the whole thing up, got in there, fixed the pipes, and got up out of there. I'm saying all that to say this: there has been some unusual activity and goings ons around the globe. We know in Brazil not too long ago, there was a flash flood, and some people think it was God punishing them because of the ridiculous parade that they put on mocking God. And it probably was, because the very next day there was a flash flood, and that street was, I mean, it wiped out buildings. It was just ridiculous. And I don't think they knew it was coming. I don't think they were prepared for that. But it wiped out buildings, everything. That same street where they did all this mocking of the Lord was just completely destroyed. And, you don't mock God. So we know in New York that this flood that just happened, it was a torrential downpour, and they said the amount of rain that fell was equivalent to a whole summer. It fell in, one day, in like 8 hours. So that's why New York is flooded right now, and the streets are torn up. Where the flood happens, it completely took out roads and everything. Roads were completely eroded, and yeah, and they say that particular storm is moving. I don't know where it's going, but so yeah, so I said, you know what? Let me go live and just, I know there's people who come on here and they're from all over the place, actually, not just in the US. But there are some listeners from New York, and they pass through. And a lot's going on in New York. There's a lot that goes on in New York. New York is always a focal point, a focus point, because there's just so much happening. There's a lot of contention in New York and people fleeing New York and this, that, and the third. And there's really no point to what I'm saying other than, what's going on in your neck of the woods. How bad is it? Do you think you need to get up out of there? Where I live, I've seen it flood. My basement flooded. I mean, it took out the pilot light to my water heater. So that's at least a foot, almost 2 feet in your basement. Yeah, that's a lot. I've seen the whole parking lot full, just full, all the way up until the last building over here, coming from that way to this way. So yeah, but so it's getting worse, is what I'm saying. And I'm just going off of where I live. It's getting a whole lot worse, uh, and I'm not a weatherman. I don't know. And I'm not going to sit up here and say, oh, it's a sign of the times because everybody is tooting that horn, Jesus coming back, and that's fine. I am not one of those people who are going to, look at this, Jesus is good. Look at, the Euphrates, Jesus. Yeah, all these things are in the Bible. Look at the Bible and then, look at what the news and then make up your own mind on whether you think God is about to crack the sky or not. But I'm one of those people like, hey, get saved. Yeah, I'll tell you that in a heartbeat. Get saved. But I'm not going to make a million videos on all the goings on in the world because there is always some goings on. There's always wars and rumors of war. However, the weather is something that I don't watch the Weather Channel or anything like that, and because I'm not someone who is constantly watching the weather, trying to make, clips of it. And look at here, look what's happening, over in, the Ukraine and the storms of this and the storms of that, and the massive crickets that have come out. Let me say more on this because there's a lot of religious people saying a lot of stuff. Let me say some more on this. Not only on the floods. Let me just say this because I am a believer of Yeshua the Christ 100%. Right. Not a meteorologist. But when it comes to looking at the world, we can see what happened over there in the Middle East, over there in where they're doing all the in Jerusalem or whatever, where they pray at and a lot of stuff. And the two different sets of Jews that are over there, I've talked about that in nauseam. But while they were, gathered and about to pray, there were grasshoppers, and, came out of nowhere, locusts, pretty much, and they flooded the place. But what was really weird is there were also giant cockroaches. Now, for those of you who don't study cockroaches or, don't have are not used to seeing cockroaches, I am because I work with appliances and roaches love appliances. There are particular type of cockroaches, everywhere. There's hissing cockroaches, which are the biggest ones. You have your regular ones you see in your house, which are German cockroaches, in all points in between, and they can span from a half an inch to a whole 2.5 to 3 inches. But the hissing cockroaches, they don't move that fast, and they're the big old chunky ones. These things were not hissing cockroaches, and they came from up out of the ground and flooded that place. So there wasn't a lot of praying that was going on there. So a lot of people, oh, it's because God, and I don't know. I don't know if God, but there were millions of bugs that just came out and flooded that whole place. Why? I don't know. I'm not saying it wasn't God. I'm not saying it was. I'm saying it happened. Also, here in the United States, there is, there are videos of this one lady had a video just showing the outside of her house, and it was flooded with crickets. They were all over the walls. They were everywhere. The dog was, whimpering. The dog didn't want nothing to do with it. And the lady says it's getting worse. So the husband went out there with a, little, with a, shoots air and whatnot, like you do for a little leaf blower action, and tried to blow him down. And he thought he did something. And then he, went to the store and came back. And when he came back, he didn't even want to come in the house because they were even worse. They were all over the place. They were, just flooded. So there's another video of a guy, and he pulled up at a red light, and he said, "Look at the beautiful mountains." And then he says, "Now look at the ground, and you see these same crickets. They were everywhere. I don't even think they were in the same state." Also, there was another video a little while back. The lady was in her backyard, and her kids were in the yard, and they were recording, and they had flashed the light, and they saw all these bugs' eyes looking at them, and they didn't know what they were, and the kids didn't know what they were until they got up close to one of them, and it was a horde of spiders. And the eyes that she caught were just the ones that were looking at her. So there were millions of these spiders that were in her yard. She had no idea. Yeah, I want to. I want to. I haven't gotten any responses. I got a response from one person, but I am trying to get into a home that's a flat. I would like to rent a house, but I'd like to rent a flat. I don't want no stairs. Stairs are not going to work for me anymore. Plus, it's the one place I saw had, it was right. It was, yeah. It's what I wanted, but they haven't answered me yet. So there's a couple places I've been looking at. But when I find the right one for the right price, I'm definitely going to go ahead and move. Gonna get up out of here. Yeah. So there's been some weird weather things going on all over the globe. Some things cannot be explained. They can't. And once again, I'm not the person to sit up here and say, wax religious. But I will say Jesus is coming back. When? We do not know. But, if you're not saved, get yourself saved. Do that today. You need to pray. I'll pray with you. You guys know I got my struggles, but I still believe in getting saved 100%. 100%. 1 million, whatever percent, the highest percent, I believe in getting saved. There's just no doubt about that. Y'all know I got issues. But, take it to the Lord. So with the flooding here in New York, we have one casualty. And this is because the lady, this is a common mistake that people make. They think that, when people are by themselves, they latch on to something, and usually it's a pet. They go out and get a pet, and then they treat the pet as if it's a human, and they love the pet because the pet loves them. They're by themselves. And then when something like, this happens, they're like, "Hey, I'm going back in to get my pet." The lady, she went back to get her pet and lost her life. Her pet was a dog. Another individual, I think another woman, she said, "I had 5 cats, now I only have 2. So 2 of her cats are missing. But she's still alive." So that's where the one casualty came from. And yeah. People are very, 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 they're protective of their animals. And I can't blame them because animals will love you when nobody else does. So the lady went back for her pet, and she lost her life going back for her pet. She got caught up in the water, and that was it. Turbulence hit her, and boom, it's lights out. The water is unpredictable. It does whatever it wants to, and the water has no respect of anything. So if it's coming, if it's there and you have to flee from it, you might have to choose your life over your pets. Now, some people are willing to die for their pets. But we've seen this over and over again. We saw a man who there was a fire, and the guy, all the fire people are there and firefighters, and the house is ablaze. The man, well, they were trying to hold him back. He was like, "My dog, I need to get my dog," and they let that guy go, and he ran right into that blaze and got his dog up out of there, saved his dog. So yeah, um, yeah. So we also know, people who would go in and save other people's lives and lose their life doing it. Like in New York a couple of years ago, there was an army young man, good brother, building caught on fire, and the young man went and saved as many people as he could and lost his life. So yeah, I don't know. It's just, I don't know. I don't know. It's just the way it goes sometimes. But that did happen within the last couple of days, or whenever you guys got hit. It happened. So I don't live in New York, but I know some of you are from there. It looked very suburban where they're talking about. But we know the rain, the water, we know it has long lasting effects. It just doesn't rain and then stop raining and then the water damage, it's over. We know that water damage in Florida causes, sinkholes. We also know that there's an ocean opening up in the desert now. It's happening right now. We know this because we've seen videos of it, and they've tried to stop it and, putting up walls and whatnot, but the water just cracked those walls right open. So there is a new ocean forming in the desert. And I mean desert. There's an ocean forming. It's just cracking wide open, thanks for the like. So that's happening now as we speak, and it's just open. It's just departing the land like it's like it's bread. It's just separating like it's nothing. So that's happening now. And like I said, in Florida, we know some years ago that a sinkhole. Florida is very bad for sinkholes, large sinkholes, but also very aggressive sinkholes. There's a sinkhole that you see that's happening. You're like, that is a sinkhole. In a couple months, that's going to be, the size of, a dinner plate or whatever. No, there's a sinkhole that happened all of a sudden. It was wide enough to swallow this man's house. It started off right up under the house. It started off, and they had no idea it was there. There were two men. They were brothers living there. One guy was in his bedroom. The sinkhole opened up so much that the floor got swallowed up, and the bed fell into the sinkhole 10 feet. Guy had no time to react. He didn't feel that room shake. He wasn't able to jump out of bed and do anything. It just happened. 1 second he was there. The next second he was screaming because he was buried 10 feet under and falling. His brother came in the house to see what's going on, and he can hear his brother, help. So he tried to get him out, but the hole opened up even further, and eventually it swallowed the whole house. Just like that. And there was nothing he could do. It buried him alive. Buried him alive. So, the water damage is something, and if there's enough of it, and it will just, it'll do whatever it wants to do. So there's that. But we need to be careful. We need to be careful because there's a lot going on in the world. We need to, stay alert, stay alive, be in prayer, and, you know, keep our eyes open. Some things we're just not going to be able to stop, but other things you might be able to get away from. You might be able to get up out of there. You know what I mean? And if you can, get up out of there. Don't lose your life. You know, don't lose your life. Uh, of course, if there's a loved one in peril, you got to make that decision whether you're going in or not. There's some people, I got it bad for old people who can't help themselves. Not necessarily old people, but people who can't necessarily help themselves. I feel bad for. You know what I mean? So, but so yeah, there are some situations that are happening all around the world, and we're gonna need to, you know, we're gonna need to wake up because it's happening to everyone. These events that are sudden and catastrophic are not just happening to a particular type of people in one particular area. There's no designation for catastrophe, especially natural catastrophes. There, I mean, it's happening everywhere. And it's becoming, it's to the point where there's no place on the planet where you think it can't happen. I live in the Midwest. I don't go, oh, a flood can't happen here. I don't listen. I don't think that a cricket or a roach infestation suddenly it can't happen here. I don't think that. I don't go, you know what, an earthquake can't happen. No, no, I don't do. I've never Pennsylvania, Ohio, never witnessed an earthquake. And in my younger years, I'd have been like, no, we're not going to get any. Now I'm like, absolutely, absolutely, absolutely. And one of the reasons is because of all that's going on. Two, because there is a major shift in the oceans. Just the water itself is doing things that I've never seen the water do. The water is alive and it is moving and it is no respect of any of us. It doesn't care about our opinion, our feelings. The water doesn't care about you. It does not. Now, and another thing is the more we mess with the water, the more things we do in the water, and mess around and put, I mean, global warming. Listen, we've been knowing about global warming since Al Gore. He was a big proponent of global warming. It's not even look. If you go past that and look at World War One, World War Two, listen. If I was the planet, I'd be upset about World War One and World War Two. The huge trash island that we got in the ocean, the size of Texas, I'd be pissed about that. The barrels of nuclear waste that we dumped in the ocean, now those barrels are seeping. They're seeping out and they're affecting the plant life. If you haven't noticed, a lot of you don't YouTube like I do. You're not on it like I do, looking for information. listening to a lot of information, you know. But there are sightings of of aquatic creatures that are unexplained, and these sightings are, you know what? And I keep thinking about it. I keep thinking about it. I keep, because I think that I'm gonna have to make a video about moving to Texas because there's a lot of information on that. There's a wave of people who are moving to Texas. It's gonna be a place of, well, it's a place of contention now, but that's gonna heat up here in 2024. There's going to be it's just gonna be a hotbed, man. It's gonna blow up. 2024, Texas is going to go. It's gonna go sky high. For $1,200. That's good. I'd take that. Shoot, I'd take that. Back to the water, but shoot, man, that's nice. One bedroom, shoot. So the water is doing strange things, other than the ocean that's being cracked in the desert, the Euphrates River drying up because of all the people who need the water, and damming it up in different places. It's not drying up because of a drought. Lake Mead is drying up because of a drought. Jobs are booming. Shoot, man. Hey, listen, if I can just get me a part-time job, I'd be cool, man. I just need about another 2 grand a month. And I can, I'm cool. But so Lake Mead, if you look at, there's videos on Lake Mead, and there's a particular father and son team that fish on Lake Mead. And if you follow their channel, you can see when they started, filming Lake Mead and what's going on, all the way till now. You'll see that Lake Mead is because of a drought. Now, when you look at the Euphrates River, you go, the Euphrates is drying up. Well, there's some reasons for that. One, it could be for drought. Two, because they're damming it off. There's a big brouhaha over the water because that water is shared by so many countries. And all of these countries need this water because some of the people are marsh people. And the animals also are marsh animals. So there's a whole ecosystem that is in the marshes. And so I think some of those marshes were cut off and they want those marshes back. So there are countries arguing over the Euphrates River because of its importance. So, it's just like, the Monongahela, the Ohio River, they go from here to Pennsylvania, Michigan, and all the other people who depend on it for water. So it's just a lot, of course, bigger because, but when you look at the Euphrates and you're looking at the sounds that are coming off from the bottom of the Euphrates, the angels that are supposed to be locked up there. When you look at the civilization that the Euphrates had built along it, you'll notice that there was a civilization that was built in the Euphrates River. In the river. Those buildings are in the river. So it's really now we have to look at the Euphrates and go, well, wait a minute, this is a civilization that's built into the river bed. These buildings aren't on the side of the Euphrates, like they're 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 on the river bed. Like what is really going on here? So when you look at the Bible and the Bible talks about the Euphrates River, you're looking at the Bible that's over 2,000 years old. So now you have to look at the Euphrates and go, well, wait a minute now. What level was the Euphrates when whoever was using it? When the Middle Easterns were, started using it, and all these empires were built up along it. And this particular place where, they're listening to these moans and these people are afraid to go down in there because of these, what they're hearing. And they're saying people are coming up missing now when they go down in there to listen to those sounds. You got to understand that is a whole building. And there's several of them. There are artifacts built into the river wall. There's like chambers into the side of the river wall. Like they didn't do this and go underwater and built this. They built it, then it got flooded. So there's just a lot going on when it comes to what the water is doing and the shift of the ocean and our rivers and lakes and what the water is doing, how we're affecting the water. And I'm telling you, the floods that we're seeing all over the planet, they're gonna get worse. These are the floods that we're seeing. Okay, the flood that just happened, it dropped the whole summer's worth of rain in 8 hours. This is what they said, right? A whole summer's worth of rain in a half a day. And you see all that it destroyed in New York. Imagine it doing that for 10 days. Just constant rain. Now, like I said, I'm not a meteorologist, but I don't know how many of you look at the way, the ecosystem goes as far as what rain does, in the ocean and, the band of air that connects to the band of water. Water comes down, hits the ocean, it goes down, cools, heats up, boom, comes up, cools. That band that is constantly going around, like we need that. I think that something happened and we messed with it some kind of way. And I think it's correcting itself. And if it is correcting itself because of what we did, whether it's global warming, we know that the polar ice caps are doing strange things. We know that there was a glacier that just decided to separate itself. It was like the size of Rhode Island. We know this just happened. And just a huge chunk of ice just broke off. And we know that's fresh water. Now, when you look at salinized water and fresh water, there's actually there are two different shades where they meet. So you can see there's a line where the fresh water actually meets the salt water. And you know that if too much salt water goes into fresh water, it has an effect. If too much fresh water goes into salt water, it has an effect. And those effects are usually negative, and then the planet itself has to correct what's happening. And when it corrects what we probably did to mess it up, it does it without thinking about us. This is where you get, these flash floods that just come out of nowhere, these tsunamis that just come out of nowhere. And for those of you who don't live on the coast, you get torrential downpours. We've even seen water spouts recently. You had one guy, he got caught up in a whirlpool. I mean, how many people died from a whirlpool? This guy looked at the whirlpool, jumped in, and was just like, oh, there's a whirlpool. He jumped in the water. Like, there's a whirlpool. And he was, on top of the water. And the whirlpool's like right there. And when he went underwater to take a closer look at it, the current hit him. Never seen again. That was it. If you're on top of the water, that's one thing. But as soon as you go up under the water, the current will grab you, and that's it. That's your life. And it cost him his life. But what I'm saying is the water is correcting the planet. It is the most dominant force on the planet. Water is the most dominant force on the planet. Most of the planet's water. So when the ocean and or oceans, Great Lakes or whatever, when they have to correct themselves, they do it however they do it. Whatever scientific way that we find out, they have, there's even more science to be learned because now you have clouds that are forming just out of nowhere, just whole storm systems that are just like, this doesn't even belong here. Where did this cloud come from? And then bang, it just drops 8 inches of water in a rural area. And there goes your house. There goes your house. In a place that rain has never done this before other than the Great Flood. The rain's never done this before. And you're not prepared for it. Texas, just like Atlanta back in 96, 97, got hit with a snowstorm. They didn't know what to do. Atlanta got hit again with a snowstorm. They did not know what to do. Texas got hit with a ice storm. They did not know what to do. You had a lot of people who were, some people lost their lives. People lost their houses. People were frozen in their cars because it's Texas. We're not ready for 8 inches of snow in Texas. And then the next, within the 24 hours, it freezes. Pittsburgh, different. We're used to it. Ohio, yep. Michigan, absolutely. We're used to it. Alabama, not so much. Atlanta, Florida, no. When I was in Alabama and it snowed, I was on campus and all of the young folks were looking to the sky. And it was like I said this before, it was like it was out of a movie. I just noticed everybody stopping and looking up. And I said, what are y'all looking at? They're like, it's snow. I said, okay. They said, we never seen snow before. So Texas wasn't prepared for that. Their emergency crews wasn't prepared for it. And some people lost their lives. One girl was texting her brother and her mom, I believe. She was on the side of the road and her vehicle couldn't go anywhere. And, she was taking some videos and she was trying to explain where she was. She had left her job, trying to get home because the storm was coming. So she was like, we're going to go home. She hit the highway and that was it. She got stuck on the highway. And people going to get her, they were like, we can't go any further. Snow completely blinds you also. So it's pretty tragic. Because once her car ran out of gas, that was pretty much it. She did not have any emergency equipment. She didn't have a flare. She didn't have matches. She didn't have a blanket. And that people, In those states, you're not used to carrying and stuff like that. In colder states, you are. Colder states, you are, but people still get caught with their pants down. But when a winter is here, it's like, okay, it's winter. So we have our big puffy coats. In Texas, you guys are not used to that. Florida, you're not used to that. So the weather is doing different things, is what this diatribe is saying. And because the weather is correcting what humans have done to it, this pushback, you don't know what's going to happen in your area. Now, we have the weatherman, we have our scientists. People think the weatherman is, we take him very casually, like, it's the weatherman. He says this didn't happen. She said this didn't happen, blah, 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 blah. I have a newfound respect. I've always respected the weather people, but they've always been jovial, you know what I mean? But now when we look at the weather people and we look at Doppler radar and they say, this is possible, this is possible, this is coming, this is coming. I mean, you got to look at it and go, let me compare this to a year ago. Let me do a comparison 5 years ago. You're going to start noticing that within the last 10 years, the weather has become more aggressive in every state. In every state. Especially when it comes to the rain. Rain, wind, snow, when it comes to precipitation. The weather is becoming, it's not unpredictable, but the predictability rate, you have to see it coming way earlier than we used to. They would go, this is your weekly readout. Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. This is what we got. And you would look at the weather and go, I'm going to make a plan on this day because it's going to be sunny. Plan on this day because it's going to be cloudy with a chance of rain. Now, they have to go, this is your weekly. However, like there has to be a clause in there. There has to be a clause now. Because the flash floods that's what they are. They're flash floods. Highly aggressive, almost unpredictable, and almost unforeseeable. There has to be a clause now. You're in the middle of the week and they told you it's going to be sunny. No, we're changing it. People, according to, this, that, and the other satellites, it's going to rain, 5 inches today. And it's going to be in this area. So there are flood warnings. And if, who's not ready, holler I. If you have a vehicle that is a low riding vehicle, that's a big thing in some of these states. If you have a low riding vehicle, if you have, any sedan, don't go outside. We had a video of a lady, she was actually driving an SUV. There was a slope, and the rain had filled up where the slope was. She underestimated how much water there was because she saw where the road was, and she was like, I'm in an SUV. I can get through that. And she was in one of those small SUVs. So she cruised down into the water and kept going. And then the water came into the car. And then you just saw the car stop. And she realized she's in trouble. The problem is that car was all, it was all electric windows and everything. Blew out the windows. The electric, took out the battery first. There was no, because remember, she's going in like this. So, boom, fried the battery. Once it fried the battery, she had no power. She couldn't roll down the windows and get out. She died right there. In 4K. Right there. Right there. Right on camera. Roll right down in there. Boom. Dead. The water is no respect to you. They don't care what you do for a living. They don't care what race you are. The water has no love for you. Respect it. Respect it. We're going to see a lot more flash floods. And they're not just going to come up to your porch. We've seen houses taken away in the last few days, ripped right off the foundation. It's going to be a lot worse than that. The planet has to correct what we've done to it. The manufacturing that we've done, even the electric cars that we have and what it costs to make these electric cars and keep them going, and all the foulness we put in the air, and these clouds that are straight clouds. We know that clouds don't form in straight lines looking like a damn racetrack. The stuff that we've done to the planet is correcting itself, and it will wipe us out. It'll take us right up out of here, and it won't even care. It'll have more peace without us. The planet will be at rest without us. We are an irritant to the planet. So prepare yourself. I don't care what state you're in. Milwaukee, California, St. Louis, Virginia. Be careful, especially if you're living on flat land. It wouldn't hurt to have an exit route. Now, where I live on flat land. Flat land, very flat. In order for me to go towards any mountains, I have to head east. I have to head towards Virginia. I have to go towards Pennsylvania to see any mountains within 2 hours. So if the state of Ohio, got caught up in something like that, I'm heading towards Pittsburgh. And or Virginia, because Virginia has hills. So I don't know what state you guys live in, but you should start thinking about these things. Well, like I said, this is not to put you guys in a state of fear. This is simply saying that I am looking at the aggression over the last 10 years or even 20 years, and Alabama, Atlanta, Florida, Texas, these places have never been hit with snowstorms. All of a sudden they have been. Looks like everybody's gone, so I'm going to go ahead and leave. And I'll come on again later, and we'll talk about, just Texas, the state of Texas itself. Anyways, thanks for listening. Thanks for the like. And stay safe out there.